Chris Murphy of Connecticut, he's on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. He traveled to Ukraine in January with the bipartisan group of lawmakers. Senator, you said this afternoon that you are seeing signs that Putin may be finally starting to understand the costs of an invasion. What do you mean?
Well, I just take from that very scripted meeting with Lavrov that he's trying to send a signal that there's possibly still an off-ramp here. The problem is, I agree with your correspondent, it's likely that he wants that commitment that Ukraine not join NATO in some kind of legally binding document. That is just simply not going to happen. We are not going to end 70 years of NATO's open door policy because Vladimir Putin is throwing a fit. He also may be getting new information now that he's come out of his bunker. I think he was sitting in Sochi for a while by himself, listening to only a handful of people, being told that he was going to be greeted as a liberator when he entered Ukraine. That is obviously not the case. This is going to be a bloody long-term insurgency. There are going to be body bags returning to Russia on a regular basis, and it may be that as he gets closer to the day that he has to decide if he's going in, he's getting better advice on exactly how bloody this is going to be for his own country.
I don't know if you read the piece, but Anne Applebaum wrote a piece in The Atlantic over the weekend in which she talked about how the West needs to completely rethink the way it engages with Vladimir Putin, who does not respect borders. He does not respect prior commitments that his country has made in treaties, and it just needs to be far more punitive. First of all, just ending the West's and Europe's dependence on the country for fuel, for power, punishing him in terms of just eliminating his ability to launder money, not allowing Russian oligarchs to purchase property in Miami, et cetera, that it just needs to be a much more, he needs to be treated as a pariah. What do you make of that? Because it certainly seems like nothing else works.
Yeah, I mean, listen, this is obviously an incredibly complicated relationship, in large part because this is still the nation that has more nuclear weapons than any other in the world besides the United States. You cannot have no ability to talk with a country that commands 40% of the world's nuclear arsenal. At the same time, Anne's right, the whole world has become dependent on Russian petro money. Much of Europe runs on these oligarchs buying up real estate. Gas still powers 40% of some European countries. We're all going to have a fundamental rethink of whether or not the price is worth it to be so dependent on Russian money. There's still plenty of money to buy real estate out of the Gulf if you want to turn your backs on the Russians for a decade or so. And that, in the end, is maybe one of the most important things you can do to alter Putin's calculus. He sort of thinks he can get it all. He thinks that he's going to be able to invade Ukraine, still be able to sell gas and oil to Europe, and still be able to have his oligarchs travel the world. We're going to have to make clear to him that's not the case, and we're going to have to convince our European friends to go along with us.
Your Republican colleague, Senator Lindsey Graham of South Carolina, said yesterday that Congress is not doing enough to deter Putin. Take a listen.
He's got 100,000 troops amassed on the Ukrainian border, and he's paying no price at all. So I'd like to hit him now for the provocation and have sanctions spelled out very clearly what happens to the ruble and his oil and gas economy. I think that's what's missing. We're talking way too much and we're doing too little.
I mean, I've heard that argument a lot, and it is hard to argue that the Biden administration's deterrence, at least as of now, has been proven effective.
So, listen, what the Biden administration is doing is pretty exceptional. I mean, this set of transatlantic and global sanctions that is being readied against Russia is going to be without precedent in world history, and it is going to deal a significant blow to the Russian economy. It is, I think, still factoring into Putin's decision making. It may be that we don't have deterrent power, and Senator Graham's suggestion that we put a small handful of sanctions on Russia today for its provocative actions, I mean, that certainly would bring some self-satisfaction, but I don't think we should overstate the impact of a small number of immediate sanctions on Putin's ultimate decision. I would rather have us backload the sanctions, make clear to Putin that if he steps any further into Ukraine, it's all going to come crashing down on him. I think that's what the Biden administration is readying. And listen, it may not be enough to change Putin's mind. There's only so much we can do, but I can't imagine what else the Biden administration could be doing than what they already have.
Senator Chris Murphy, thank you so much for your time today. Appreciate it, sir.